Hi guys, let me know if this is working. I'm just gonna go on my own Facebook page to check that I'm not sideways right now. If I can find myself. Alright, cool, it looks like it's working. So hi guys, as you get logged in, let me know if you can hear me. I can only see the little red Facebook eye right now. So let me open this on my computer so I can see who's in here. Okay. So thank you for joining me for episode 2. Do give me a wave, send me an emoji, let me know that everything's coming through clear. Otherwise, yeah, I'm just getting the little red eye and I can't interact as well because I can't see who's actually in here. Give me a hashtag live if you're watching live. Give me a hashtag replay if you're watching the replay of this. And give me a hashtag newbie if you're new, if we've never interacted before, so that I can send you a message and we can connect. I'm really excited about episode 2. I spoke about in episode 1 why I started this series, what I want to dive into during these series. Pretty much I want to go more into my own life journey. The other series that I do are more based around lucid dream stuff, but in this series I really want to dive into kind of consciousness work, psychedelics, connection, growth, spirituality, business stuff, and obviously sprinkles of dream work, as that's what I do. I was really grateful to you guys for all the messages that I received after episode 1. In episode 1, if you haven't seen it yet, it should be below this video, but it was called Stories That Inspire, and I spoke a lot about starting up a business or starting up anything and the hate that you might receive for your own success. And not just about haters, but we dived into like, why might people do that? Why might people feel these ways when you're doing something successful? Why might they want to pull you down? And also when to interact with those people, how to interact with them, why that might be useful for us. And I got a lot of messages of encouragement from you guys afterwards, so thank you so much. If you're someone who sent me a message saying that you resonated with what I was saying, or you've been through a similar thing and the video helped you, that made me feel great, and I was so happy that those resources can also be useful to you guys. I also received a lot of messages from people saying they kind of understood, and send me some hearts if this is you as well. So they understood and they've had interactions with haters, but they were still not sure how to progress, or they have their own fears and anxieties that come up which stop them from moving forward with this issue. And I want to touch a bit more on that today. I think this is a particularly interesting topic because of the recent and tragic loss of Caroline Flack. For you guys in the States, if you don't know who that is, Caroline Flack was a TV presenter in the UK with the UK series Love Island, and she did some bad stuff. She made some mistakes, but she got a lot of hate for it online. A lot of newspapers hated on her or spoke about her in really bad ways. And last week, unfortunately, she took her own life. So I think these issues and what we're touching into on how to interact with people online, what kind of space we want to create for ourselves, those things are really important, right? So I took a bunch of notes when preparing for this topic today. I love getting creative, putting pen to paper and seeing what will kind of come out authentically. I do this when I read books. I do this when I dream journal. I do this if I have a meeting with people and I want to kind of make sure I get my ideas out onto the page. So if you're tuning in, whether it's live or on replay, I highly recommend that you try taking notes through this as well. Just see what comes up for you. If anything that we talk about during this live touches into something, it can be interesting to see what kind of thoughts and feelings come up, and to journal on that. But pretty much in this episode, I want to talk about the topic of overcoming fears, overcoming anxieties, or alleviating anxiety, and how we can use fear and anxiety to benefit us rather than stop us in what we're trying to achieve. So I have 2 quotes that I want to share with you guys to start. The first one is from one of my favorite websites, which is called everydaypower.com, and they have a whole bunch of different quotes for like happiness, motivation, depression, anxiety. The one I want to share today, I also shared with the Alleviating Anxiety Beta Dream group that I run, which is nothing diminishes anxiety faster than action. And I think that's such a powerful quote because a lot of times when we're in a state of anxiety, we feel like we can't take action, and I think that's one of the most important things to do or to know is how do we take action in that state and how do we help our anxiety to benefit us. The other quote I wanted to share is one from Wayne Dyer, and his quote is, "When you change the way you look at things, things you look at change." How beautiful is that? So send me some hearts, give me some love if you agree with these things, and if you've noticed that action and perspective have been effective tools for you in your life. I think they're 2 very powerful forces. I talked about in episode 1 again how we can benefit from these moments where we feel truly connected to other people, where we feel in true alignment, and when we can just bask in the success of people around us. And in those spaces, have any of you guys noticed how when we're in those states, when we're in our true alignment, or when we're feeling connected, when we're celebrating the successes of other people, it's so easy for our fears and anxieties to totally disappear. We feel like our ultimate human self. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? And I think it's in those states as well that we're able to kind of have the certain mindsets that we need to hear what we really need to hear. Or, you know, there are times where the voice in our head tells us things that might make us anxious, make us fearful. And there's also the times where we are in our head and we're in a good state and we're hearing all these positive things, we're creating ideas, right? So it's really important to notice these 2 things and what it is that's happening for you. What is the voice that's in your head? What is your inner voice telling you all the time? Is it telling you things that are enabling you to change your perspective and take action? Or is it telling you things that keep you in that fear state or that anxiety state? So the way I think of pure connection, joy, alignment, being in that higher state is actually through terms of music and vibrations. I'm a very visual learner, so this makes a lot of sense to me, but let me know what type of learner you are in the comments, whether you're visual, whether you're more written based, or whatever style it is for you. What I mean by so I'm going to try and explain what I mean by the type of learner I am and why I relate those states to music. So in the first year of my master's course, I took a module called Approaches to Consciousness. And in this module, I took the subtopic of quantum physics, right? And when I was writing my paper on this, I used a theory called the ORC-OR theory, which stands for Orchestrated Objective Reduction. And this is a theory developed by Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose. And they basically look at how the brain is akin to a quantum orchestra. Stay with me. So they basically suggest that it's maybe our consciousness arising from vibrations in something called microtubules, which are these tiny little powerful components of our cytoskeleton. And basically the way that I saw it after working through this theory without going into depth with it in this conversation, but as I imagined the microtubules kind of oscillating, I began to realize that everything in our universe is vibrating, right? Whether it's something big, something small, whether we can actually hear it or feel it or not, everything is vibrating at a certain frequency. And that obviously creates sound waves, whether we hear those sound waves or not. It's technically a sound, right? The same way that, dogs or some animals, they can hear higher vibration than us. And obviously humans, we can't hear the biggest range, but everything has a vibration, everything is moving, everything's made of particles. So when I thought about that, I thought about how there is actually musical production taking place within all objects of our universe, within our bodies, our heartbeats, even inanimate objects. They're vibrating at some kind of frequency and creating technically a piece of music, even if we can't hear it. So I think it's no coincidence that we use these terms to think about how we feel. We use the terms like good vibes, bad vibes, this person's giving me creepy vibes, right? And it makes sense that we can also feel the things that we hear, or these vibrations are connecting to us, so we also can tune into them in the same way that when something has a bad vibration, we feel it in our bodies, right? Like the nails on a chalkboard kind of thing makes us cringe. Or if you're even listening to a piece of music, even if it's the most beautiful piece of music that you've heard in a long time, or someone's playing a piano piece and then they hit the wrong key, it's so jarring to us. Like we really notice it. Or if you play, in the wrong key or something, it's very noticeable. So that's what I kind of mean by thinking of things in terms of music and vibrations and feelings. And I think that it's the same way I'm talking about these bad vibrations. They affect us with good vibes and flow states. Like when we connect with someone, we feel good vibes. We get into that flow state with them where a conversation is flowing. You say that you're on the same wavelength, right? When you're connecting to people. Hey, Jennifer, just tuned in. So I want to give you another good first-hand experience of this. So give me a shout to all the people listening who play a musical instrument or have ever played a musical instrument or tried to learn one, even vocal, anything musical at all. So a couple of years ago, I started learning to play the violin. And when I first started playing, it's interesting as an adult because my mind can comprehend things faster than my body can. So when I first picked up the violin, I could learn to read all the sheet music. I knew where I wanted to place my fingers, and I knew where how I wanted the song to sound, right? But my body couldn't keep up. So my fingers wouldn't reach the fretboard as fast as I wanted them to. And I felt this like disconnect. However, when I was able to get into a better flow state, not thinking as much with my mind and my body and my violin being these separate things, when I was able to kind of become one with the instrument, my conscious mind had very little to worry about. It's just like you're in that flow of the music. It's like the music is flowing through your your blood and your being, right? And that in those states, worries and distractions, they don't even enter through. You stop thinking like, is my finger on the fretboard in the perfect position? Or you stop thinking like, am I holding it right? Is this in time? It all just syncs up. Give me some hearts if you agree with this, or you've ever had this kind of experience and noticed how the fear, the anxiety, everything like that disappears when you're just in that state of like connection, either in conversation or playing music or anything like that. So yeah, again, when I started thinking of things in these terms, like good vibrations, bad vibrations, flow states, I started thinking about what brings up anxiety, what brings up fear, and really thinking about those things. And most importantly, being able to label those things as noise. And this like distinction really helped me when I was able to think of the bad thoughts that came up, the thoughts that create fear, the thoughts that create anxiety, and label that as just like outside noise, like white noise distractions. I was able to pick up on those a lot quicker every time they came up and notice, do I need to stay on this thought right now and give it energy, or is it just noise that I can throw aside? Thank you, Natalie, you're agreeing with this. So I'm glad it's making some sense. So where does the noise come from, right? It doesn't come from the enlightened states that we're in. It doesn't come from that place of true alignment, connection. So, or wonder, you know, the magic, the lucid living that we experience when we get those incredible ideas, when we're in a good vibration. So where does it come from? Let me know in the comments what you guys think about where it comes from, or where you think it comes from you. When I think about my own anxieties and my own fears and where they stem from, I think a lot of it is actually built into our systems, built into our lives, maybe even ancestrally. We get a lot of the same fears that maybe our parents have had with us, or the way that they spoke to us when we were a child, from teachers in school, right? When people say things like, a really common one that I've spoken about a lot recently is people talking about how when they were a kid, their parents would tell them like, you're too noisy, or you talk too much. And then that gets ingrained in our minds. we might not believe it, but for a long time of our lives, right? Then we have these things where we grow up, and if you talk to someone who had that experience, had someone tell them, you're too noisy, you talk too much, they have like internalized this as an anxiety, like, am I talking too much? Sorry, I talk a lot. I was always told I talk a lot. Instead of if someone had said like, I love how much you talk, or you always have such interesting things to say, right? Those things make a real difference in our blueprint and how we interact with other people because of the things that some people have said to us, and they can travel with us through our past. They can stay with us for a long time through traumas. I think you know, a bunch of things are passed down through wartime, family trauma, ancestral trauma that are in our bloodlines. But a lot of modern day fear is honestly just created through social media, judgment, status. Thank you, Ian. And haters, the people around us. We're so conscious of how do we come across, how are we going to look, right? Even for me, I really want to do this video, I really want to talk about these topics, but I still get nervous because we care about what people think about us. But it's important to know, you know, do I care about who is saying the noise, who's saying the actual good vibes, like who's resonating and whose opinion is important to me. And when I think about that and how it might benefit other people, that has nothing on me compared to the fear of someone I don't know being like, oh, you're just chatting shit. Why do I need to care about that? Why should that stop me doing what I want to do? So basically, just in the beginning of this, I wanted to clarify what I kind of think is connection, alignment, tapping into flow states, because I think that's really where the magic happens for us. And I think we should never have to act from those places of fear or anxiety unless we're able to use it to boost ourselves in a positive way. So that's what I want to talk about today and give some resources on that. So let me know, give me a heart or an emoji or a hand or some kind of signal if you've ever been in one of those situations where you just start seeing red, and you start saying the first things that come to your mind, and you know you're going to be regretting what you're saying. You're acting from that place of fear or anger or bad vibrations. You're just in a fight or in a moment. You start spewing stuff out. Maybe more of my fierce crowd, give me some flames if you're a bit fiery like me. And you just start saying things, and then you know whilst you're saying it that you're going to regret it, right? So what I want to share today are some ways that we can shift state and become unstuck in these moments, and therefore get out the essential state of fear or anxiety, and move into a state where we can act from a place of connection, joy, love, our best ideas. And these are super simple things. I don't want to share anything that complicated that no one can do. And I'm sharing them because I really believe that fears and anxieties take up our time. We miss out on things. If I let my anxieties control my life, I wouldn't be doing a retreat this year. I wouldn't be running groups at a conference. I wouldn't be living my dream. I would be sitting in a blanket, reading a book by myself, sat in my own world. And I would constantly be having those, what if thoughts. Like, what if I really went for it? What would happen? So the first kind of hack for these things that I want to share is a physical hack. And this hack is all to do with posture. This one is so simple that it's often totally overlooked. So have you ever noticed how if you're in a state of fear, anxiety, sadness, we start like curling up, getting real small, and our mind and body go into this like shutdown mode. We kind of go into a ball. You might start crossing your arms, or you're in that like really hunched over state. Like if you imagine I had someone who had anxiety, depression, sadness, like behind a curtain, and I asked you to describe what kind of posture do you think they have, we all kind of imagine it in that like really small state. So one of the most important things and quickest ways to shift a state from fear, sadness, anxiety, depression, all these things, is literally opening ourselves back up physically, making our shoulders wide, opening our chest, sitting up, smiling. Even if you're not feeling it necessarily, like just try it. Actually try it right now, wherever you're tuning in from, wherever you're sitting or whatever. Try sitting up, try opening up, try smiling. See how it actually instantly makes you feel slightly different from how you are before. This is because when we do these things, we actually have a chemical reaction go on in our body. Our body drops in the amount of cortisol, which is linked to stress. It increases our testosterone, which is linked up with confidence and how we feel. So actually changing our body, changing our physical body, changes our mindset. It really works, and it's as simple as that. For those of you who are maybe interested in more of the science behind this, please go and watch a woman called Amy Cuddy. She has an incredible TED Talk on power postures, power poses, called Your Body Shapes Who You Are. And she talks about the different signals that your body will send to your brain, and also everyone else. She goes into how this literally affects how other people are viewing you. So, it's the same thing. If you walk into a room, or you're going to an interview, if you're going to a meeting and you walk in and you're hunched up, or you've got your arms crossed, or you're carrying all your things really close to you, people sense that. You're sending out a vibration, you're sending out a message, and that message, even if you're not necessarily conscious of it, is sending out this idea of I don't feel good, I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling fearful, right? Totally different if you walk in the room, hey, arms out, smiling, confident, even if you don't feel it, just simply changing up your posture or sitting at a table with people very openly in this way really has a huge effect, not only on how we feel and think, how our mindset is, but how other people are also perceiving us. So that's a huge shift that you can use instantly just through posture. Tony Robbins also touches on this. He has a couple of clips on YouTube that are like 60 seconds long called How to Reset Your Mind and Body. And he mentions these things. He literally says, try shifting right now, try smiling, try laughing. How does it feel, right? It's an instant change. So I'm not obviously recommending that we start laughing at people when we're in the middle of fighting them, although that is one of the greatest techniques for really pissing off the person you're fighting with, if you start laughing at them. But what I am saying is, see if you can put yourself, the next time you're in a situation, the next time you are in that seeing red state or that anxiety state, deer in headlights, can you just put yourself in a calmer posture? Can you open up? Can you relax your shoulders? Can you start breathing deeper? Can you give yourself a smile, even if it's a tiny one? Can you sit up straight? And see what that does for you. See the kind of state and mindset shift that it has just from changing your posture. So that's hack 1, the physical hack. Hack 2 is takes a little bit more input from you. It takes a little bit more confidence to do, but this is a social hack. And this hack is about speaking and manifesting what you want into the universe, announcing it into the world. And this is why I think that social media can be really useful and help encourage us and push us forward if we use it in this kind of way. It can keep us accountable. A great example that I can share with you that happened to me super recently was that I decided to stop drinking alcohol this year. This was a personal and a medical choice, but it was really hard for me because I am British, my husband is Korean. This is part of our cultures, both Korea and England. We have a heavy drinking culture, right? It's very much built into all our social activities. So this is a really difficult thing for me. And I knew that unless I announced it, unless I had people around me that knew I was doing this, it would be really hard for me to, solidify it in my mind that this is a decision I'm making and I want to stick to it, right? So one of the first things I did was I immediately told everyone I knew, give me some fire if you've had this experience or tried doing this yourself. Just sharing something out. You're like, I'm deciding I'm doing this. It might be something that you would pull out of, like running a marathon, joining a sports club, picking up an instrument, any of these kind of things that we might back out of last minute, right? When we announce it, we hold ourselves accountable because we know that other people know this is what we're going to be doing now. There are a lot of scientific studies showing how announcing a goal can increase our chances of success. Literally, when we tell other people about what we're going to do, this kind of announcement ties into kind of law of attraction and who knows, and we have to appease these people, especially if you're someone who has followers or people that are keeping up to date with you. Then saying, I'm going to do this, people expect to see it, right? And that pushes us forward to do more. And there's literally science behind how that helps us be successful in something. So if you're someone that's being stuck in a state of fear or anxiety, you're too scared to do something, you might be the exact person who would really benefit from this kind of social hack, just announcing it. The other one that's social and ties into what I just mentioned, law of attraction and using the right language. So the way that we speak about something we want to do, the way that we talk to other people, there's a real difference in being someone who says, I want to stop smoking versus someone who says, I need to stop smoking. It has a totally different impact on not only how you think about it and feel about it using that language, but also the impact that other people hear. The same way as if you say, I really want to pass this test, or I really want to ace this test, versus saying to people, I'm going to ace this test. I've got this, right? Totally changes our mind, and it really works for us when we start telling people what we are doing versus saying, yeah, I want to try this, or I think I should do this. Saying that we are doing it, that we are getting through it, that this is what's happening, this is what we need, rather than what we want, can really change the outcome of the things that we do and how we feel about it. So I do this all the time, even with these videos. I make posts about them. I tell people this is what time it's happening, what date it's happening, so that I do them. So please give it a try. I'm still terrified of stuff like this, making videos, but I know that making the videos, making these connections, starting conversations with people, helping other people, helping myself, this has a lot more power than just the idea of the fear of doing it. The fear and anxiety are way down here, and the actual success that comes out of it and connection that comes out of it and joy that it gives me is much higher up. So I recommend you give it a try now. If there's something that you're ready to do, if there's something you've been wanting to do and you've been putting it off, comment on this video. Let me know, like, I'm going to be doing this. This is important to me. Put it on your Facebook, send it in a message, text your mom, whatever it is. Write it to yourself and make that pledge. Make that pledge to yourself that you're not going to let the fear and anxiety stop you. You're going to let that push you forward and take you into new directions. So hack number 3. This one is an action hack. It ties into dream work a little bit. And I truly believe that actions do speak louder than words, right? It's all about facing it. When we start actually facing our fears, exposing ourselves to our fears, they lose total power over us. So step 1 in the face it approach is figuring out what it is that scares us the most. So what is it? What are the nightmare scenarios that keep you up at night? And when you think about that scenario, really think about it. Do you go to the place of thinking, what's the worst case scenario with this happening? Where would this situation leave us if I actually did this, right? A lot of the fears that I've heard about recently, or been messaging people about, or when people respond to my videos with the connections they have, a lot of people's fears are simply tied to other people's opinions about us. If I go into this career path, what are my family going to think of me? What are my friends going to think of me? What if I mess up and everyone laughs, right? These are very outside fears. It's not actually something within us stopping us, but it's more just about the judgment and the status that we think it will give us, or what other people might think about it. But we don't often let our minds play out much beyond this, right? And that's why we get stuck in a loop, because we just go into that, what will people think about me? What will people say about this? What will this happen? But we don't actually go all the way to the end of the situation and really think about, what would happen, right? So a great example of this is last year when I was invited to present at the IASD conference. I thought about getting on stage, giving this presentation. I only had the preliminary results, and the fear that came up was people, not taking it seriously, or people laughing. And then I went through it, right? I thought, what after that? What if someone did laugh? Or what if people didn't take it seriously? What's the worst case scenario of what would happen to me? And when I really went through it, I realized that really the worst case scenario even out of all the good that would come of it, is that I might feel a little bit embarrassed, right? And then when I kept going through it, I got to the end of the thought cycle. I was like, is that it? I might feel a little bit embarrassed, yeah, but I just presented some work that I spent the past year or so researching. People who need this work will see it. It's going to help a bunch of people. It's helped me. And at least I gave it my best. So who cares if someone, I don't know, doesn't like it? We are stronger than we know, and when we know that there's a way to work it out, we can work it out. We can go past these things. So I would say that the quickest way to overcome fear is through action, and just have that concept in your mind of like, do it anyway. If the worst case scenario is something like maybe being a little bit embarrassed or someone commenting on it, saying something hurtful, is that gonna stop you? Is that where you want to drive your life from? Is that the place that you want to act from, being concerned about one person that you don't even know that well's opinion? Will you even let them embarrass you? Can you be in that state of mind where, if you're doing it and someone laughs, that honestly it doesn't even touch you? Can you create that kind of strong and powerful bubble around you? Can you keep it in your mind when you do the things that you want to do? So it's a lot easier said than done, right? Like, just do it. But there are some steps that you can take to doing something virtually, rather than just diving straight in and being exposed to it. So I'll give you a real life example of a way that I used this to overcome some fears. One that followed me for nearly, almost my entire life, I think, from the age of 3 or 4 to a couple of years ago, so maybe the best part of 20 years of my life. So the fear that I have is the fear that I had was a huge phobia of butterflies. Yes, I know what you're thinking, like, how could you be so terrified of those beautiful, colorful, magical creatures? Well, when you're seeing the beauty and color, I'm seeing just like mutant, small, bat, furry, disgusting, flapping bugs. I fucking hate those guys. Like, they gross me out. The fur on the wings, the weird trippy colors. I had a terrible fear of them. This didn't come out of nowhere. This stemmed from my dad taking me to a butterfly house when I was a kid, in a floral jacket. So when I went into this house, I was totally swarmed by all these butterflies, some bigger than my head. I know that's not a great achievement because my head is very small, but they were all over me and they were flapping, and it was the sound and the feeling of their wings all over my body. And basically I ran through this entire thing screaming, and this developed into a terrible phobia that followed me for my whole life. Now, you might think like, okay, having a phobia of butterflies isn't that bad, but it really did start to affect me, especially in later years of my life, when I would just, be at a party or a social gathering or out in the sun somewhere, and there's butterflies, and I'm trying to talk to people, I'm trying to make a good impression with people, and actually my mind is just making me shit my fucking pants every 2 seconds, being like, oh my god, there's a butterfly over there, it's coming towards me, right? You start looking like a crazy psycho person, especially when most people, I would say, think butterflies are the most beautiful creatures on earth, and they're so beautiful and pretty, and I'm there being like, oh my god, mutant, that creepy thing, about to scream and run, right? So this was following me around. I got into my mid-20s. It's an embarrassing situation. I knew I needed to face this. I knew I was done with it. This whole thing wasn't serving me anymore. It wasn't helping me out. But I knew that I needed the experience before the real experience, right? I wasn't particularly fond of exposing myself in that direct way of just taking myself into a butterfly house again and being like, having a freak out. So what I did was I induced a lucid dream. And this is another great reason of why I think dream work is so important, is because we basically get to be in our own virtual reality, literally the mind that we have. We get to go in there and face things that are our deepest fears, and dreams are the perfect place to do that, because as we know from nightmares, dreams are quick to show us our anxieties and our fears in a very real way. So what I did was I set myself up in a train carriage and I created a butterfly in there. And what I did was I sat with the butterfly quite far from me. I still have control over the dream space, so it's kind of flying around, but I knew I could stop it from coming near me or touching me. And then I slowly worked through this series of dreams so that I was in a space trapped with a butterfly, and as it would get closer and closer, I would go through again what I talked about earlier in this video with the social hacks and how, we kind of take it a step at a time. We might not want to go all in immediately, but I got to the end of my thought loop, right? I thought, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if this thing touches me? And honestly, in this situation with a butterfly, nothing. It will probably actually die if it touches me or I bat it away or whatever, right? So eventually I got to the point where in my lucid dream I could let the butterfly land on me. I realized nothing is going to happen, that there's no bad thing out of this situation. And after I practiced it a couple of times in the dream state, I knew that I wasn't scared anymore. I didn't have anything to be fearful about. I didn't need this to be an anxiety causing situation when I'm at an outside gathering or anything like that. And obviously sometimes still fear comes up, especially when it's something with a phobia. It will come up, but I no longer have that really controlling me. I wouldn't let it stop me going from somewhere, even if the situation now, or if someone wanted to have, a party or gathering in one of those butterfly houses, can honestly, hand on heart, say I could go and I could be fine. So I really recommend for you as well to check out lucid dreaming if you never have. If there's something that's holding you back or a fearful thing that you need exposure towards, see if that might be a really useful thing for you. One of the most important things that I've learned is that successful people don't have less fear. They have the fear and they do it anyway. So I think that entire line is really how I want to live my life, right? I want to trust myself. I want to believe in myself and know that I'm not going to let anything, especially an external thing, stop me from getting to where I want to go to. And I think an important thing with anxiety is that, it's important to stop thinking too far ahead, right? The anxiety comes in when we're at stage 1 of something, but we start thinking, well, what about stage 5? What about stage 6? What about when it gets to this point? Then what am I going to do? How about we just keep it at stage 1 and then we think about stage 5 and 6 when we get there, right? When this comes up for me when I talk with people about travel. I'm someone that I've lived in 3 different countries in my life, one of them being Japan. And a lot of people want to go to Japan. And when I'm talking to people about their plans for traveling or going to Tokyo, going to another country, I'm always amazed at the amount of panic that goes into the planning that people do for these trips, right? The amount they're planning. And I'm not saying don't plan for something, but I'm saying do step 1 and see how it goes. When I moved to Japan, I moved with a suitcase. I thought that I was just going to be staying there for like a month with a friend, and then I ended up there for 5 years, right? If I had planned it out, as meticulously as my mind and my anxious mind wanted me to, I would have never even ended up going there. And yeah, people are honestly shocked when I say I pretty much moved to Japan at 19 with under $1,000 in my bank account, 1 bag. I didn't have a house. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a job, but I did have action. I did have inspiration, and I trusted myself. I knew that I'd figure it out, right? Did I have situations that came up for me? Yes. Did I go to the convenience stores there and have people heat up sandwiches because I couldn't fucking understand what was being said? Yes. Did that stop me from eating and going back again? No. For those of you that have been to Japan, you may have had this situation yourself. So basically, when you go into the convenience stores there and you pick up your item or whatever, go to the front, they have a lot of different items that can be heated up, like pre-made meals. So when you go to the front register, the the member of staff will often ask you like "Atatamaemasu ka?" which means like, do you want this heated? But the really common thing that humans do when we're in a fear state or we don't understand something is we kind of just say like, yeah. So for the first week or so, when I would go in, I would be putting things down and the person would automatically, I guess it's pretty automatic because you're not supposed to heat up sandwiches, but would ask me "Atatamaemasu ka?" and I would just be like, and then she'd heat up my sandwich, dude. It was the worst. And so, yeah, when we're acting from a place of fear, when we are acting from a place of anxiety, we're not really thinking about things, right? Because honestly, by that time, I could have pieced together that she's probably saying, like, do you want it heated? And then she heats it. Stuff goes wrong. But life is truly beautiful when we can start using these things to propel us forward rather than hold us back. And you, if you're listening to this, you're someone who truly deserves that for yourself. And I hope you truly believe that within yourself. I still get anxious. I still have fears like everyone else. But some of the moments and the stories I've shared, even in this video, how I was able to move state, shift state, and act not from the fear, not from the anxiety, but from that place of strength to take action and live from that kind of lucid state. Those are the times that magical things have happened for me, where opportunities have arisen that I could have never imagined. So I would just ask of you, the next time that you're in a state where you're like thinking, fuck the universe, or what's the fucking point in any of this stuff, I hope that you'll think of a couple of the things that I shared in this video today, whether it's a matter of just a physical hack, whether it's a social hack, whether you can go as far as the action hack and really expose yourself to these things and do that deep shadow work and face your fears and just be like, no, I've had enough of acting from that space. I hope some of those things will work for you. If you enjoyed any of the things I recommended in this video, please do just share it with a friend, or share the video and post it with some of your own experiences. I would love to hear ways, or share ways together that worked for you, because that might be the thing that works for someone else, right? And when we can share our experiences and see if we can live from that state of connection rather than fear, it brings us into these flow states, and it's going to be better for all of us. The more of us that can act from these flow states, that can utilize fear, can utilize anxiety, the better it is for everyone else around us, right? So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed some of what I shared today. I'd love to hear more about your experiences. If you enjoyed the video, let me know in the comments, share it with a friend, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Love you guys.